What are IoT platforms most helpful with? And by that, I mean, why should manufacturers, be considering the use of IoT platform software to begin with?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I'm sure that's one of the fundamental questions that gets asked because people want to know what's in it for me, or more specifically, what's the return on investment? And again, if you go back to HMI SCADA, if we look at traditional large plants, they've had large systems for monitoring that have been in place for years. If you look at a process plant, it might be a DCS. If you look at more of a discrete or hybrid plant, it could be a combination of PLCs with HMI SCADA and local operator interfaces. But where people have always struggled is connecting remote assets. So if you've got a fleet of assets that's widely distributed, maybe those assets move about, maybe those assets are a long way away from the central location. That's really where IoT comes into it, because IoT, it's Internet of Things, or more specifically IIoT, Industrial Internet of Things, but it's also about edge connectivity, and it's about getting the data from those edge devices from wherever they are into those central systems. And it goes beyond HMI SCADA. HMI SCADA is great for visualization, creating pretty pictures of the plant. But more and more data scientists and data engineers, they're not interested in what the screen looks like, but that's still important. But they're more interested in what is the data coming from the plant and how can I use that to optimize the plant. And the typical things that people want to do, that the two main things that we always come across, is they want to increase efficiency and they want to reduce unplanned downtime. Now, if you have a machine or process, then you need to understand how that machine is running. You need to maybe set a baseline. You need to understand how well it can perform when it's operating correctly. And then by collecting data from that machine, you can then analyze its current performance and compare that against the baseline performance. And then you can see, is there a problem with the machine? Is it running worse than I'm expecting? Is something going wrong? Is there a problem somewhere? And then with those data that you've collected, you can then do more detailed analysis. It might be a raw material problem. There might be issues with running the machine outside its normal parameters. It might just need some maintenance. But until you've collected that data and started collating that data, you don't know. And when I was with GE, we did various approaches around Six Sigma and lean manufacturing. And there are processes you can use. One of the ones I used to use a lot as part of my Six Sigma training was DMAIC, which is define, measure, analyze, implement, and control. Of course, for defined parties, you have a problem, and that may be reported from your user base or even with an end user who's phoning in about a quality problem. The next thing you need to do is M, which is measure. And of course, that's where the IoT part comes in. It's about collecting data from the plant, getting it into a central location so that then you can perform some sort of analysis. And I think that's really where IoT platforms are most helpful with. They bring in data from all these remote separate systems, and then you can put the data in a central location and make sense of it. You can turn that data into information and use that to optimize your operations. So I think that's the benefit of where IoT comes in. And it's not just about modern protocols. We think about modern protocols like MQTT and OPCUA. That's great if you're creating a system now, but many of the assets in a plant or in a customer's processes, they may be old PLCs. They may have legacy protocols. Some of them might not even have any protocol at all. It might be something that's so old or not even very well automated that you can't connect to it. So the whole point of IoT is being able to somehow gather that data and then bring it into your central location. And I think it goes beyond that as well. Data is one thing, but then if you can turn it into information, if you can then create some sort of analytical model, you could then close the loop and you could have a local analytical model. Some people refer to this as like a digital twin, but the idea is you can run that analytical model locally and it could take its own corrective action. Maybe if the machine starts drifting, you could do some sort of closed loop control to bring it back under process control, or maybe there's a problem that's going to occur, so you could send an SMS or an email to a maintenance person to come out and fix that machine before it breaks down. So that's the promise of IoT. It's first of all collecting the data, making it available, and then the real promise is that analytical capability to improve operations.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. That's a key point that I was glad you were able to help explain there about how these IoT platforms are not necessarily some advanced add-on or nice to have, but it's more of a core building block that enables everything you're doing with the data from digital twins to potentially AI analytics using whatever you have in place currently. So thank you for that.
Indeed. Yeah, one of my previous colleagues, he used to have a great analogy. It's like the growth of smartphones. So it used to be you'd get up in the morning, yeah, you'd get dressed, you'd go to work, and it was all uncontrolled. Nowadays, what probably happens is you get up, you check your smartphone. So the first thing is, what's the weather like? What do I need to wear today? So already you've optimized your behavior for that day to wear something that's appropriate for the conditions. Is it going to be hot or cold or so on? The next thing you might do is check the route, or maybe you're using sat nav, and your route planner or your sat nav will guide you the best location to get to the office or get to where you're going, avoiding traffic jams and breakdowns and anything else that might occur. So already, with this smartphone analogy, we've optimized our lives to reduce the amount of time it takes and the things that might go wrong in the day, and that allows us to plan much better what we're doing. And that's the analogy we use. It's like having a smartphone. The IoT approach allows you to connect your process to the internet and be more intelligent, just like you and I are using our smartphones.